The massive space station called Kepler Prime floated in the darkness between three blue stars. It was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. Ships from 12 different worlds came and went from its docking bays every day. This was the home of the Galactic Defense Coalition, the group that kept peace across the galaxy for over 300 years. Deep inside the station, in a room made of smooth black metal, alien leaders sat around a glowing table. They were discussing something that made them very unhappy. The humans wanted to join their coalition. Admiral Kethvar was the first to speak. He was a Zephyrian, tall and thin with purple skin and 4 arms. His people had been warriors for thousands of years. "These humans are nothing special," he said with a sneer. "They have only been in space for a few decades. They fight with crude weapons and have no honor." Across the table, a being made of living crystal clicked and hummed. This was Nexari Prime Unit 7, representing the Nexari species. They were master mathematicians and strategists. "Our calculations show humans have a 0.3% chance of success in the Crucible," the crystal being said. "They are too emotional and unpredictable. Logic suggests we reject their application, but the rules were clear. Any species that wanted to join the coalition had to take the test. The Crucible of Valor was the hardest military test in the galaxy. It was created by the best military minds from all member species. The test had been given to over 50 different alien races in the past century. None had ever scored higher than 23%. "Let them try," said Commander Yuthal, a snake-like being, from the Serati homeworld. "When they fail, we can send them home and forget about them." The other aliens agreed. They sent the message to Earth. Humanity could send 12 of their best warriors to take the test. If they failed, Earth would be banned from applying again for 50 years. On Earth, the message caused great excitement. This was humanity's chance to join the galactic community. But who should they send? The world leaders argued for days. Finally, they chose 12 Marines from different countries. These men and women had proven themselves in combat on Earth. Captain Jake Morrison was picked to lead the team. He was 35 years old, tall and strong, with short brown hair and steady green eyes. He had fought in 3 wars and never lost a battle. His men trusted him completely. Sergeant Lisa Rodriguez was his second in command. She was small but fierce, with black hair and quick dark eyes. She had grown up in the rough streets of Detroit and learned to think fast and fight dirty. The other Marines called her the Brain because she could solve any tactical problem. Corporal Danny Kim was the team's explosives expert. He was young and always joking, but when it came to bombs and demolitions, he was completely serious. He could make explosives from almost anything. Private Alex Turner was an engineer before he became a Marine. He was quiet and thoughtful, always tinkering with machines and electronics. If something was broken, Alex could fix it. If it wasn't broken, he could make it work better. The rest of the team was just as skilled. Private Maya Johnson was an expert in urban warfare. Corporal Ben Clark had been a firefighter and knew how to save people in dangerous situations. Private Nicole Walsh had studied psychology and understood how people think and feel. The 12 Marines traveled to Kepler Prime in a small Earthship. As they approached the massive space station, they could see ships from many different worlds. Some looked like living creatures, others were perfect geometric shapes. The humans had never seen anything like it. When they docked, alien guards met them. The guards were surprised by how small and weak the humans looked. They had no thick armor, no natural weapons, no enhanced bodies. Just soft skin and simple uniforms. "These are the famous humans?" One guard whispered to another. "They look like children." Captain Morrison heard the comment but said nothing. He knew his team looked ordinary compared to the aliens around them. But he also knew that looks could be deceiving. The humans were taken to the testing facility. It was an enormous room filled with advanced technology. In the center was a circular platform surrounded by holographic projectors. This was where the Crucible of Valor would take place. Admiral Kethvar stood before them, his 4 arms crossed. "Welcome, humans," he said coldly. "You are about to face the ultimate test of military skill. The Crucible will test your strength, your tactics, your courage, and your honor. Many brave warriors have tried and failed. Most barely survived the first challenge." The crystal being, Nexari Prime Unit 7, flickered with light. "The test adapts to your abilities and becomes harder as you progress. It is designed to push any species to their absolute limits. Statistical probability suggests you will fail within the first 30 minutes. Morrison stepped forward. "We understand, sir. We're ready to begin." The aliens exchanged glances. They were impressed by the humans. Calm confidence, but they were certain it was just ignorance. These primitive beings had no idea what they were about to face. "Very well," Admiral Kethvar said. "Enter the arena." The 12 Marines walked onto the platform. The holographic projectors hummed to life around them. The room filled with alien observers, all eager to watch the humans fail. "Remember," Morrison said quietly to his team, "we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for all of humanity. Show them what we're made of." The test began. The arena around the Marines changed instantly. The smooth metal floor became rough stone. Walls rose up around them, forming a massive fortress. The air filled with the sound of weapons fire and alien battle cries. The first challenge had begun. Above them, enemy soldiers moved along the fortress walls. They carried energy weapons that could cut through steel. The fortress had 3 massive gates, each protected by force fields and automatic defense systems. Every other species had tried to break through these gates using brute force. All had failed. "Standard assault formation," Admiral Kethvar said to the other observers. "They will charge the main gate and be destroyed within minutes." But the humans did not charge. Instead, Captain Morrison raised his hand and his team stopped. They crouched behind some rocks and studied the fortress carefully. "Lisa, what do you see?" Morrison asked. Sergeant Rodriguez pulled out a small device and scanned the fortress. "The walls are strong, but look at the base," she said. "There are drainage tunnels underneath. They lead right into the center of the fortress. Danny, can you work with that?" Morrison asked. Corporal Kim grinned. "Give me 10 minutes and some basic supplies, and I can make those tunnels very interesting." "For our enemies," Morrison nodded. "Alex, I need you to study their weapons. Maya, you and Ben take 3 others and create a diversion at the north gate. Nicole, you're with me. We're going to try something different." The aliens watching were confused. Why were the humans splitting up? Every military doctrine in the galaxy said you should keep your forces together when attacking a fortress. What are they doing? Admiral Kethvar asked. Nexari Prime Unit 7 flickered rapidly, trying to calculate the human strategy. "Unknown. This approach is not in our tactical database." The human plan began to unfold. Maya Johnson led her group to the north side of the fortress. Instead of attacking, they started making noise and moving around where the enemy could see them. The defenders thought this was the main attack and moved most of their forces to that side. Meanwhile, Lisa Rodriguez and 2 Marines crawled into the drainage tunnels. The tunnels were narrow and dark, filled with alien machinery that no one had ever tried to use before. But Alex Turner was with them, and he understood machines. "This isn't just drainage," Alex whispered as they crawled through the tunnels. "It's a cooling system for their weapons. If we can reverse the flow." He worked quickly, rewiring alien technology with tools from his kit. The aliens who designed the test never imagined anyone would try to use their own systems against them above ground. Danny Kim was having fun. He had found some energy cells and metal scraps. In his hands, these became improvised explosive devices. But he wasn't using them to attack the walls. Instead, he was using them to create chaos. "Fire in the hole," Danny whispered, and set off. A small explosion near the east gate. The defenders turned to look. Then another explosion came from the west side. Then another from the south. The alien commanders in the fortress couldn't figure out where the real attack was coming from. They had never faced an enemy that used misdirection and psychological warfare like this. Captain Morrison and Nicole Walsh were doing something even stranger. They had captured one of the enemy soldiers, and Nicole was talking to him. She was using her knowledge of psychology to understand how the alien mind worked. "Your commanders don't care about you," Nicole told. "The alien soldier. You're just here to die for their glory. But we don't want to kill you. We just want to complete our mission." The alien soldier was confused. In his culture, enemies fought until one side was completely destroyed. The idea of mercy was foreign to him. Back in the tunnels, Alex had finished his work. The fortress's cooling system was now working in reverse. Instead of cooling the weapons, it was overheating them. One by one, the defense systems began to fail. "Now," Morrison said into his radio, Lisa Rodriguez and her team emerged from the tunnels right in the center of the fortress. At the same time, Danny Kim set off his largest explosion at the main gate. Maya Johnson's group charged from the north, shouting and making as much noise as possible. The defenders were completely overwhelmed. They had prepared for a direct assault, not for enemies who appeared from underground, used their own systems against them, and attacked from 4 directions at once. But the humans weren't finished. Instead of killing the defeated enemies, they began capturing them. Nicole Walsh talked to each prisoner, learning about their culture and their fears. Soon, some of the alien soldiers were actually helping the humans. "This is impossible, Admiral," Kethvar said, staring at the display. "They have convinced enemy forces to switch sides." "How?" Nexara Prime Unit 7 was flickering frantically. "Unknown variable detected. Humans appear to use empathy as a weapon. This does not compute." The first challenge was complete. The fortress had fallen, but not the way anyone expected. Instead of destroying it, the humans had captured it almost intact. Instead of killing their enemies, they had turned many of them into allies. The arena began to change again. The fortress disappeared and was replaced by a dense jungle filled with hostile creatures. The second challenge was beginning, and it was designed to test survival skills and teamwork. But the aliens were no longer confident. These humans had just done something that was supposed to be impossible. They had completed the fortress challenge with 0 casualties on either side. Even worse, they had done it in a way that none of the alien military experts understood. "Perhaps we should increase the difficulty," suggested Commander Yithel. "The test is already at maximum difficulty for the first stage," replied the test. "Controller, if we make it any harder, it might kill them." Admiral Kethvar watched as the humans regrouped in the jungle environment. They were checking their equipment and sharing information about what they had learned. They seemed calm and confident, as if taking an impossible fortress was just another day at the office. "Increase the difficulty anyway," he ordered. "I want to see what these humans are really capable of." The test controller hesitated, then obeyed. The jungle around the Marines became darker and more dangerous. Creatures with razor-sharp claws began to hunt them. Poisonous plants released. Deadly spores into the air. Captain Morrison looked around at the new threats and smiled grimly. "Looks like they're not playing fair anymore," he said to his team. "Good," Now we can really show them what we can do. The real test was just beginning. The jungle challenges had been hard, but the humans had survived them all. They used teamwork and creativity to overcome every obstacle. Alex Turner built traps from jungle plants. Maya Johnson used urban combat techniques to fight the alien predators. Nicole Walsh even managed to calm some of the aggressive creatures using animal psychology. Now the arena was changing again. The jungle faded away and was replaced by something much worse. The humans found themselves in a burning city. Buildings collapsed around them as explosions shook the ground. Enemy aircraft flew overhead, dropping bombs everywhere. But this time, the humans were not alone. The streets were filled with alien civilians running in panic. There were thousands of them from many different species. Old ones who could barely walk, young ones crying for their parents, families hugging each other in fear. "This is the Omega Protocol," Admiral Kethfor announced to the observers. His voice was cold and proud. "The ultimate test of military judgment. The candidates must protect civilian populations while facing overwhelming enemy forces. They are outnumbered 50 to 1. Nexari Prime Unit 7 flickered with satisfaction. No species has survived this scenario for more than 6 minutes. Average survival time is 3 minutes and 47 seconds. The test had always ended the same way. Every species tried to fight the enemy forces directly. They formed defensive lines and made brave last stands. They all died heroically, which impressed the alien observers. But they all died. Captain Morrison looked around at the chaos. Enemy soldiers were advancing from 3 directions. Aircraft were bombing the city. Civilians were running everywhere with no plan and no hope. "Change of mission," Morrison said to his team. "We're not here to fight. We're here to save lives." "Sir?" Sergeant Rodriguez asked. "You heard me. Split into 3 teams. Our job is to get these people to safety, not to kill enemies." The aliens watching were amazed. Instead of forming a battle line, the humans scattered into the crowd of civilians. They began organizing evacuation routes and rescue operations. Lisa Rodriguez took 4 Marines and began directing traffic. She found the fastest routes out of the city and started moving civilians along them. She used her tactical skills not to plan attacks, but to plan escapes. "Move, move, move," she shouted to a group of confused aliens. "That building is going to fall. This way to safety." Ben Clark immediately went to work on the biggest problem. A school had been hit by bombs, and alien children were trapped inside. Ben had been a firefighter before becoming a Marine. He knew how to save people from burning buildings. "Alex, I need you to shore up this wall," Ben called out. "Danny, can you clear that rubble?" Alex Turner used his engineering skills to keep the damaged building from collapsing completely. Danny Kim used his explosives knowledge in reverse, carefully removing debris without causing more damage. Together, they pulled 47 alien children from the wreckage. Nicole Walsh was doing something even more important. She was keeping the civilians calm. Panic was spreading through the crowd like a disease. People were running in all directions, trampling each other, fighting over escape routes. "Listen to me," Nicole called out in a clear, strong voice. She had studied alien languages and psychology. "I know you're scared, but we can save everyone. You have to trust us and follow our instructions." Something in her voice cut through the panic. The aliens stopped running in circles and started listening to the humans. Captain Morrison was coordinating everything while fighting off enemy attacks. He had realized something important. The enemy forces were programmed to attack the humans, not the civilians. If the humans stayed close to the civilians, the enemies would have to be more careful with their attacks. "Use the crowds as cover," Morrison ordered. "Stay with the civilians and keep moving them to safety." Maya Johnson was doing something incredible. She had found a group of enemy soldiers and was talking to them. Just like Nicole had done in the fortress, Maya was using psychology as a weapon. "You're bombing your own people," she told the enemy commander. "Look around. These are civilians from your own species. Is this what you call honor?" The enemy commander was confused. This was just a simulation, but the human was talking to him. Like it was real. Some of his soldiers were starting to lower their weapons. Meanwhile, the human tactics were working. Instead of fighting a hopeless battle, they were actually saving lives. Evacuation routes were flowing smoothly. Rescue operations were pulling people from collapsed buildings. The number of civilian casualties was dropping to almost zero. The alien observers were stunned. The test was designed to measure how bravely a species would die, protecting others. But the humans weren't dying. They were succeeding. "This is impossible," Admiral Kethfer said. "The simulation shows they have saved over 3,000 civilians. No species has ever saved more than 50. Temporal analysis shows they have. Been active for 38 minutes, Ixari Prime Unit 7 reported. This exceeds maximum survival time by factor of 6.4. But the humans were not finished. Danny Kim had discovered something interesting about the enemy aircraft. They were using a specific frequency for their targeting systems. With Alex Turner's help, he built a jamming device from spare parts and alien technology. "Hey, boss," Danny called to Morrison. "Want to see something cool?" He activated the jamming device. Suddenly, the enemy aircraft couldn't target anything properly. Their bombs started missing completely. Some of the aircraft even started attacking each other by mistake. Lisa Rodriguez had organized the evacuation so well that civilians were actually moving faster than the advancing enemy forces. The humans had turned a hopeless last stand into a successful rescue operation. Ben Clark was still pulling people from destroyed buildings. He had saved over 200 civilians by himself. His clothes were torn, and he was covered in dust. But he kept going. Every life mattered to him. Nicole Walsh had done something even more amazing. She had convinced some of the enemy soldiers to help with the rescue operations. They were now working alongside the humans to save their own people. "Time," Morrison called out as the last group of civilians reached safety. "Everybody out. Mission complete." The arena went silent. The bombing stopped. The enemy forces disappeared. A burning city faded away. The 12 human Marines stood alone on the metal platform, tired but victorious. They had survived the Omega Protocol for 43 minutes and 17 seconds. They had saved 4,847 civilian lives with 0 human casualties and only 12 enemy deaths. It was a result that broke every record in the test's history. The alien observers sat in total silence. They had designed the Omega Protocol to be impossible. It was meant to show that sometimes even the best warriors had to make the ultimate sacrifice. But the humans had turned sacrifice into salvation. How? Admiral Kethfor asked quietly. Captain Morrison looked up at the observation deck. "We didn't try to win the battle," he said. "We tried to win the war. Sometimes the best way to defeat your enemy is to save the people they're trying to destroy." The arena began to change again. The 4th challenge was beginning, and it would be even harder. But the aliens were no longer certain that hard meant impossible. These humans had just redefined what was possible. The 4th challenge was different from anything the humans had faced before. The arena had become a dark space station filled with corridors and rooms. Red lights flashed everywhere, and alarms were blaring. The air smelled of smoke and fear. "This is the nightmare scenario?" Admiral Kethfer explained to the other observers. His voice was worried now. "The test subjects must rescue hostages from a space station that is about to explode. But the hostages are guarded by fanatic enemies who will kill them rather than let them be rescued. The test designers had created this scenario to be completely impossible. Every species that had tried it before had failed within minutes. The enemies were too strong, the time limit was too short, and the hostages were too well guarded. The station will explode in exactly 30 minutes, Nixari Prime Unit 7 announced. Historical data shows that rescue attempts result in 100% hostage mortality. This scenario has never been completed successfully. But the humans did not rush into the station shooting. Instead, they stopped and studied the situation carefully. Captain Morrison sent out small teams to scout the area, while he and Lisa Rodriguez worked on a plan. "The enemies are fanatics," Morrison said quietly. "They would rather die than surrender. But fanatics always have something they believe in more than their own lives." Alex Turner was already working on the station's computer systems. He had discovered something interesting. The space station was not really going to explode. It was just a simulation. But the artificial intelligence running the test believed it was real. "Captain," Alex said, "I think I can hack into their communication systems. If I can figure out what these fanatics believe in, maybe Nicole can use that against them." Nicole Walsh was studying the enemy broadcasts. She was listening to their radio chatter and trying to understand their psychology. What she found surprised her. "They're not really evil," she told Morrison. "They think they're protecting their families from us. In their minds, we're the monsters who want to hurt innocent people." Morrison nodded. "Then we need to show them. They're wrong." What happened next had never been tried before in the history of the Crucible. Instead of attacking the enemies, the humans tried to talk to them. They used the communication systems to broadcast messages directly to the fanatic. "Soldiers, we know you're scared," Nicole's voice echoed through the station. "We know you think we want to hurt your people. But look at what we did in the city. We saved thousands of lives. We didn't kill anyone unless we had to." The fanatic soldiers were confused. They had been told that humans were bloodthirsty monsters. But the voice talking to them sounded kind and understanding. Meanwhile, Danny Kim was working on a different problem. The station was supposed to explode in 30 minutes, but Danny was an explosives expert. He knew how bombs worked. More importantly, he knew how to make them not work. "I can disarm the self-destruct system," he told Morrison. "But I need to get to the main power core. And that's right in the middle of the enemy stronghold." Maya Johnson had an idea. "What if we don't fight our way there? What if we sneak in?" She had found maintenance tunnels that led through the station. They were narrow and dangerous, but they avoided the main enemy positions. It was another example of human creativity, finding solutions where none were supposed to exist. Ben Clark was already helping with the hostage situation. He had found a way to communicate with the prisoners using the station's ventilation system. He was telling them to stay calm and be ready to move when the time came. "Don't worry," Ben whispered into the ventilation grate. "We're going to get you out of here. Just trust us and do exactly what we say." The hostages were from different alien species, but they all understood that these humans were trying to save them. They began to hope for the first time since their capture. Lisa Rodriguez was coordinating everything from the command center. She had created a complex plan that involved multiple teams moving at the same time. It was like a chess game, but with lives at stake. "Team Alpha, move to position 2. She said into her radio. "Team Beta, begin phase 3. Team Gamma, you're clear to proceed." The alien observers were watching in amazement. The humans were not just completing the impossible test. They were rewriting how it worked. They were treating it like a puzzle, to be solved, not a battle to be won. "They're not following any known military doctrine," Admiral Kethvar said. "How can they coordinate such a complex operation without a central command structure?" "Unknown," Nixari Prime Unit 7 replied. "Human decision-making patterns do not match any species in our database." The human plan was working. Nicole Walsh had convinced several enemy soldiers to surrender peacefully. Danny Kim had reached the power core and was disarming the self-destruct system. Maya Johnson's team was rescuing hostages through the maintenance tunnels. But then something unexpected happened. The test's artificial intelligence began to adapt to the human tactics. It had been designed to counter any strategy, but the humans were using strategies it had never seen before. The AI began to change the rules of the test. More enemies appeared. The time limit was shortened. The hostages were moved to more secure locations. The test was fighting back against the humans. "Warning," the test controller announced. "The simulation AI is exceeding normal parameters. It appears to be trying to prevent the humans from succeeding." Alex Turner noticed the changes immediately. "The system is cheating," he told Morrison. "It's changing the rules because we're winning." Morrison smiled grimly. "Then we'll just have to cheat better." What the humans did next had never been attempted in the history of the Crucible. They began to hack the test itself. Alex Turner used his engineering skills to reprogram the simulation. Nicole Walsh used her psychology knowledge to confuse the AI. Danny Kim used his explosives expertise to create system overloads. "If it wants to play dirty," Danny said as he caused a controlled power surge, "we can play dirty too." The test was breaking down. The AI could not cope with human unpredictability and creativity. It had been designed to counter logical military tactics, not to deal with beings who could think outside the box and bend the rules. Lisa Rodriguez was now giving orders to the test itself. She had figured out how to reprogram the enemy soldiers and was turning them into allies. The hostages were being rescued by the same fanatics who had been guarding them. "This is impossible," Admiral Kethfer said, staring at the displays. "They have taken control of the test. They are not just passing it, they are rewriting it." Ben Clark had done something even more incredible. He had convinced the enemy leader to help with the rescue operation. The fanatic commander was now working with the humans to save the hostages he had been holding prisoner. "You were right," the enemy commander said to Nicole Walsh. "We were so afraid of being hurt that we became the ones doing the hurting. Help us fix this." The fourth challenge was complete, but not in any way the test designers had intended. The humans had not just rescued the hostages. They had turned the entire enemy force into allies. They had not just prevented the explosion, they had taken control of the space station. The arena went silent. The test AI flickered and went offline, unable to process what had just happened. The 12 human Marines stood victorious once again, surrounded by grateful hostages and former enemies who now called them friends. "How is this possible?" Admiral Kethfer asked quietly. Captain Morrison looked up at the observation deck. "We didn't try to beat the test," he said. "We tried to understand it. Once we understood what it wanted, we could give it something better." The arena began to change one final time. The fifth and final challenge was about to begin. But the aliens were no longer watching a test. They were watching a demonstration of something they had never seen before, a species that could turn any challenge into an opportunity. The final challenge was supposed to be the ultimate test of everything the humans had learned. The arena became a massive battlefield with enemies attacking from all sides. There were ground forces, air forces, and space forces all working together to destroy the human team, but something was wrong. The test was not working properly anymore. The artificial intelligence that controlled the Crucible had been damaged by the humans' unexpected tactics. It kept changing the rules randomly, trying to find a way to make the humans fail. "System malfunction detected," the test controller announced. "The simulation AI is experiencing cascading logic errors. It cannot process human tactical patterns." "Admiral." Kethfer stared at the displays in shock. "Are you telling me that these humans have broken our most advanced military simulation?" Affirmative, Nexari Prime Unit 7 replied. The AI was designed to counter all known forms of military thinking. Human thinking appears to be ... unknown. On the battlefield, the humans were doing something that amazed everyone watching. Instead of fighting the massive enemy force, they were organizing it. Captain Morrison had realized that the AI's confusion was affecting the enemy soldiers too. They were getting contradictory orders and fighting each other as much as they were fighting the humans. Lisa, can you hack into their command network? Morrison asked. Sergeant Rodriguez was already working on it. Give me 2 minutes, she said, her fingers flying over her portable computer. Their system is so confused that it's barely protected anymore. While Lisa worked, the rest of the team was doing what they did best, solving problems in ways no one expected. Alex Turner was reprogramming enemy weapons to fire harmlessly into the air. Danny Kim was using his explosives to create light shows that distracted enemy aircraft. Maya Johnson was leading enemy soldiers in circle formations that kept them busy but didn't hurt anyone. Nicole Walsh was broadcasting calming messages to all the enemy forces. You don't have to fight, she told them. This is just a test. No one needs to die here. We can all work together to end this peacefully. Ben Clark had found wounded enemy soldiers and was treating their injuries. He was using his medical training to save the lives of beings who had been trying to kill him just minutes before. Got it, Lisa announced. I'm in their command network. I can see everything they're planning. But instead of using this information to attack the enemies, the humans did something completely different. They began to help the enemy forces coordinate their attacks better. They were improving the very system that was supposed to destroy them. What are you doing? Admiral Kethfer demanded over the communication system. Morrison looked up at the observation deck. We're showing them that there's a better way, he said. Instead of fighting each other, we can work together. The results were immediate and stunning. The massive battle began to slow down and then stop completely. Enemy soldiers were laying down their weapons and talking to each other. Aircraft were landing peacefully instead of attacking. The chaos of war was becoming the order of cooperation. This is unprecedented, the test controller said. The humans have achieved a 97% success rate. They have completed every challenge with minimal casualties and maximum cooperation. But the humans were not finished. They had one more surprise for the alien observers. Alex Turner had been working on something special during the entire test. He had been studying the Crucible systems and learning how they worked. Captain, Alex said, I think I know how to fix the AI. Fix it? Morrison asked. Yeah, it's not really broken. It's just confused because it was designed to think like us, but it doesn't understand how we think. If I can teach it about human psychology and tactics, it might work better. Nicole Walsh joined Alex at the computer terminals. Together, they began to reprogram the test AI. They were teaching it about human concepts like empathy, creativity, and cooperation. You see, Nicole explained to the AI, fighting is not always the best solution. Sometimes you can solve problems by understanding them instead of destroying them. The AI began to respond. Its confusion cleared up as it learned new ways of thinking. For the first time in its existence, it began to understand that there were alternatives to violence. This is working, Alex said excitedly. The AI is learning. It's becoming more flexible and creative. The alien observers watched in amazement as the humans not only completed the impossible test, but actually improved it. They had turned a system designed to measure military destruction into a system that could measure military cooperation. The test is complete, the controller announced. Final score, 97% success rate with 0 human casualties and 96% enemy. Survival rate. This performance exceeds all previous records by factors that our mathematics cannot calculate. The arena faded away, leaving the 12 human Marines standing alone on the platform. They were tired but victorious. They had done something that no other species in galactic history had ever accomplished. Admiral Kethver descended from the observation deck. His forearms were shaking, and his purple face was pale with shock. "How?" he asked simply. "Captain." Morrison shrugged. "We didn't try to beat the test. We tried to make it better. We figured that if we could make the test better, we could make the galaxy better too." The other alien leaders came down to meet the humans. They were no longer dismissive or condescending. They were respectful and curious. They wanted to learn from these strange beings who had changed everything. "We must discuss this," Commander Yithel said. "The Galactic Defense Coalition needs to reconsider everything we thought we knew about warfare and military strategy." Over the following days, the humans were invited to meetings with the highest levels of the galactic government. They shared their ideas about cooperation, creativity, and peaceful problem-solving. The aliens were fascinated by concepts they had never considered before. "We would like to offer you immediate membership in the coalition," Admiral Kethvar said during one meeting. "But more than that, we would like you to help us redesign our entire military approach." Captain Morrison was offered command of a joint species task force. His Marines were invited to become instructors at the military academy. The Crucible of Valor was completely redesigned based on human input, focusing on cooperation and creativity instead of just destruction. But the most important change was in how the aliens thought about war itself. They began to understand that the best victory was one where everyone survived and everyone learned something. They started to see conflict as a problem to be solved rather than a battle to be won. Lisa Rodriguez became the coalition's new chief tactical instructor. She taught alien officers how to think creatively and adapt to unexpected situations. Alex Turner was put in charge of improving military technology, focusing on systems that protected life rather than destroying it. Danny Kim started a new program, teaching aliens how to use explosives for construction and rescue work instead of destruction. Maya Johnson became an expert in urban peacekeeping, showing alien forces how to protect civilian populations during conflicts. Ben Clark established emergency response teams that could save lives during disasters. Nicole Walsh founded a new school of military psychology that focused on understanding enemies rather than simply defeating them. The humans had not just passed the test, they had transformed it. They had shown the galaxy that there was a better way to think about military strength. True power came not from the ability to destroy, but from the ability to protect, understand, and cooperate. Years later, when new species applied to join the coalition, they faced a very different test. The new Crucible of Valor measured not just fighting skill, but creativity, empathy, and the ability to find peaceful solutions to complex problems. And at the top of the instructor list, teaching young aliens how to think like humans, were 12. Marines who had proven that sometimes the best way to win is to make sure everyone wins together. The galaxy had learned that humans were not just another warrior species. They were teachers, healers, and problem solvers who could turn any challenge into an opportunity for growth and cooperation. And that made them the most dangerous enemies and the most valuable allies the galaxy had ever seen.